LDI.
Ms. Schiraldi, where do you live, ma'am?
136 Millennia Drive, Mount Summit.
And how long have you lived there?
Almost 13 years.
And where do you work?
Walmart.
And how long you work there?
9 years.
What do you do there, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm customer service manager. I run the front end.
Oh, okay. Now, do you have any children?
4.
Can you tell me their first names?
Lauren, Richard, Stefanos, and Timothy.
Stefano also goes by Stephen?
Yes.
I call him Stephen. He just left. He testified. So you lived there obviously back in 2013, that same address.
Yes.
And when you lived at that address back in 2013, who lived there with you?
Stephen and Timothy, I think Richie was already gone.
But Stephen definitely lived there.
Yes, Stephen and Timothy definitely.
Did Stephen have his own bedroom?
Yes, they all have their own bedrooms.
Where was Stephen's bedroom?
Diagonal from mine,
Okay.
on the second floor.
So obviously you were also working at Walmart back in 2013.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and cut right to the chase. Back in 2013, did Stephen, to your knowledge, ever bring the victim, in this case, Heather Elvis, to the house?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It was a night I had to close the shift. I had clocked out at 11:35, and I'm only like maybe 6-7 minutes away. I came home about 10 of. They were upstairs in his room watching TV. He introduced me to Heather. Then about maybe an hour later, 45 minutes, the movie was over. He told me that he was bringing Heather home. She said, "Good night, nice to meet you." He left, and in less than an hour, he was back home.
Was that the first time you had ever met Heather?
Yes,
To the best of your knowledge, was that the first time that Stephen had ever had a date with Heather?
that I'm aware of.
So you never brought her to the house before?
No,
Okay. But when you got home, you said you clocked out at what time?
11:35.
That's a very specific time, ma'am. I'm going to ask you how you know that from 6 years ago.
Add personnel, put a request into the corporate office to pull my time clock.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm showing you now what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 9. I'd like you to take a look at that document for me and tell me if you know what that is.
Yes, that's my time clock for the week.
Is that the time clock you retrieved from your company?
Yes.
Now, is that a record that's kept in the ordinary course of business?
In the computer system, corporate has it. After so much time, they no longer have access to it at the store level.
Okay, well, how do you get it then?
I had to ask personnel who electronically submitted a request to the corporate office for a copy of it, and they emailed it back to her. She printed it out and gave it to me.
And since you've gotten it, does it appear to be tampered with?
No, except for what I had highlighted the day.
What did you highlight? Tell me.
December 17th, my time clock.
And why did you highlight December 17th?
To see it easier.
Okay. And that is the time clock. That is the representation of your hours worked that week.
Yes, I have the original with me.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to tender State's Exhibit 9 in evidence.
Your Honor, I think you could use it to refresh your recollection, which has already been done, but she's not the records custodian, and she's essentially testified in a manner that would require the records custodian.
She's familiar with it. She asked for it. She requested it. Subject to that objection, I'll be it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Schiraldi. So looking at State's Exhibit 9, tell me again what time you clocked out on September 17th.
11:35.
p.m.
Yes.
Now, after you clocked out, where did you go?
Home,
And how long does it take you to get home from your place of work?
about 7 minutes.
And you testified just a minute ago that Stephen and Heather were present when you got home.
Yes, they're in his room watching a movie.
How long after you arrived did they leave?
maybe an hour.
So you were there an hour before they left
Yes,
for Stephen to take her home?
yes.
When you met Heather, what was your impression, ma'am?
She seemed like a nice, sweet girl, very polite.
Did she seem distraught?
No,
Were they fighting?
no,
Did they seem like they were having a good time to you?
yes.
So after Stephen left with Heather, how long was he gone before he got back?
Less than an hour,
And you knew he was taking her home.
yes.
When he got back, did you know when he returned?
It was somewhere between 1:30 and 2.
How do you know he returned? How do you know? Did you
Just
hear?
by doing the math. I heard him come in the door. He came up the stairs and went into his room.
Did you talk to him? Did you say anything to him?
No, I was in bed.
Okay. So when he came up and went to his room, let me ask you this, is it common for Stephen to be home and you to be home and maybe one of you not know the other's home? Can that happen?
Not usually, no.
Okay.
Unless they're trying to sneak in on me.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Fair enough. What did Stephen do once he arrived home less than an hour later?
He went to his room. Went to bed.
Did you check in on him?
Watch TV.
Well, I'm sorry?
Maybe watch TV.
Okay. Did you check in on him at all?
No, by that time I was already in bed.
Okay. Do you remember what kind of truck Stephen drove back in 2013?
It's a light blue Ford Ranger.
Do you know if it was a two-door, four-door?
Two-door.
It was a big, high, jacked-up truck?
No, he actually lowered it. It was low down to the ground.
Was it a manual transmission?
A stick, yes.
This was stick shift. You had to change the gears like this.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And when Stephen got home, do you remember about what time it was when he got home for the final time?
Between 1:30 and 2.
And did you hear him leave any time after that?
No.
Do you know when the last time Stephen left your house was?
When he went to work the next day.
So you didn't hear any commotion when he arrived home? I mean, he didn't come home crying?
No, he was fine.
He didn't wake up and say, Mom, wake up?
No.
Okay. Everything seemed fine?
Yes.
By all accounts, it was a good night?
Yes.
Further here. Cross-examine.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Schiraldi Brianna. To start off, have you provided any written statements to police officers or to the solicitor's offices?
No.
No? All right, so during the initial time period when Heather went missing, you were not asked to provide any type of written statement?
No.
Okay. Now, what was introduced as State's Exhibit 9, when did you provide that to the solicitor's office?
Within the last month, a few weeks ago maybe, a couple of weeks ago.
So this document that was just entered, your time card, that was just given to the solicitor's office within the last week?
More than a week, I'd say.
Okay, within the last 30 days or so?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, it's your testimony, as I understand it, that Stephen and Miss Elvis came out of their room and communicated directly with you. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
They were saying goodbye.
Okay. Well, the reason why I ask is we just asked Stephen if he had spoke to you.
Objection, Your Honor. Pity.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. If Stephen had in fact stated that he had not communicated with you, would he be mistaken?
Pitting, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. When you got contact from police officers in, I must call it late December, somewhere around December 18th, when did you learn what they were investigating?
I wasn't home when they came to the house.
Okay.
I was having a new heating and air conditioning unit installed that day.
Okay.
And I had ran to the store, and when I came back, the workers told me that the police had been there looking for Stephen.
Okay.
I didn't know what for.
Okay. And how long did it take before you realized what the police were investigating?
I didn't know until maybe a couple hours later when I finally got a hold of Stephen.
Okay. And after they talked to Stephen, did they come to talk to you?
No,
They didn't?
not that I remember.
Okay. Do you know how many times you've talked to investigators since Heather Elvis's disappearance?
Maybe 3 times over the years.
Over the years, over the last 6 years? But none in the,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm sorry.
but there were none in the, let's call it 72 hours following Heather's disappearance?
Not that I remember. It's possible, but I don't remember.
Okay. Last question, Mr. Rob, did the police ever ask to search your home or search Stephen's room or any of the property at your house?
No.
No further questions, Your
Very well. Redirect.
Nothing, Your Honor. I'd ask you to be released.
Thank you. Any
Honor.
objection?
Absolutely.
You are free to be stepped down. Thank you, ma'am. We'll call you next week, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time the state calls Brianna Warrelmann. Thank you, Michelle.
Please raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Interested. State your full name and spell your last name.
Just one second.
Just state your full name and spell your last name.
Okay. My name is Brianna Warrelmann, Warrelmann.
I called your name up here. I called Brianna Warrelmann, but what is your last name now?
I just got married again, so it's Kulzer. It's Kulzer.
Okay, but it was Warrelmann in 2013.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you are married now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how long have you been married?
Since May.
Okay, and how many children do you have?
3.
Okay, and how old are they?
4, 2.5, and 6 weeks.
Okay, wow. Now, how old are you currently?
28.
Okay, and have you ever, where are you from?
New Jersey.
Okay, and where are you living now?
New Jersey.
Okay, and did you ever live here in Horry County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell this jury when you lived in Horry County.
I moved here August, September 2012.
Okay, and when did you leave Horry County?
Spring 2014.
Okay, so you were living here December, November 2013 during
Yes,
that
ma'am.
time frame. Okay, if you don't mind, tell this jury where you lived.
River Oaks.
Okay, and is that an apartment or a house?
It was an apartment.
Okay, and about how long had you lived there?
About a year.
Okay, now when you were living there, where were you working in 2013?
Tilted Kill.
Okay, now earlier, you weren't in here, but we met Jessica Cook and Jody Davenport. Do you know those two ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know them?
One was a coworker, another server, that's Joe, and Jess was our supervisor.
Okay, and so those were all people you worked with at Tilted Kill.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now do you know Heather Elvis?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you work with her at Tilted Kill?
Yes.
And if you don't mind, tell this jury so they know, what was your relationship with Heather Elvis?
She was my best friend. She also was my roommate.
Okay, now if you don't mind, tell this jury when y'all became close friends.
We became really close June of 2013.
Okay, and when did she move in with you?
Right before Thanksgiving of 2013.
Okay, so November of 2013?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she continue to live with you?
Yes.
Until she went missing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but y'all were close friends way before then, or at least a few months?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the time of June, August, September, that time frame before she had moved in, Was she seeing anybody at that time?
Yes,
Did she
ma'am.
have a boyfriend?
Yes.
Who was
Sidney Moore.
she? Okay. And do you know Sidney?
From work, yes.
Okay. And could you identify him?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he in the courtroom now?
Yes, ma'am.
Point him out.
Right there.
Okay. And that's the man she was seeing during that time frame.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, at some point, did that relationship end?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the time she was seeing him, was she seeing anybody else?
No.
Okay. Now, did you work with Sidney Twosome at Tilted Kilt or know him from Tilted Kilt?
Yes, ma'am. He would do like the maintenance stuff around the restaurant.
Okay, so he would be there when you were there at times.
Yes.
And what would he be doing, or what was kind of his job responsibility?
Fixing things, building things. He built like an umbrella cart to carry the umbrellas in and out of the restaurant.
Okay. And he was kind of the maintenance guy.
Yes.
Okay. And did you ever talk with him?
Briefly, yes.
Okay. And do you know at the time if he was married?
Yes.
And was he married?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you know at the time if he had any kids?
Yes.
And did he have kids?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Now, when they were seeing each other, did you ever see him come visit her at work?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and tell this jury about that.
He would come in, visit her at the hostess stand, bring coffee, food, bagels.
And so you would see them interact together.
Yes.
Tell this jury what that looked like at that time.
They were flirtatious. It was supposed to be a secret, but everybody at the Tilted Kilt knew about it.
Okay. So he would come in and bring her stuff in front of everybody.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there was a time when that relationship ended, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and about when was that?
I want to say October of 2013.
Okay, towards the end of October?
Yes.
Okay. How was she when that relationship ended?
She was devastated.
Okay. And how long did it take before she started getting over that relationship or that breakup?
It was about the time that she started to move in with me, was when she started being happy again and going back to her happy self.
Okay. So several weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you know about how long her and Sidney had had a relationship?
It was at least a couple months. It started right when her and I started to get close, so like June.
Okay. So in June, they were already seeing each other? Or
Yes.
at least started?
Starting to, I think.
Okay. And around the end of October it ended?
Right.
Okay. Now, you told this jury kind of mentally how she was after the breakup. Did you see any changes in her physically?
She had gained weight because she would run around the house talking about how she had to buy new Victoria's Secret bras, which are not cheap.
Okay. And so she had to get a bigger bra size.
Yes, ma'am.
And did she have to get a bigger size at work as well?
She had to get new clothes at work, and she had to get new clothes in general. We would go shopping for her.
Okay. And did she ever lose that weight before she went missing?
No.
Okay. Now, there was some questions asked earlier, and I want to ask you. Was there a question about whether or not she was pregnant?
Yes.
Okay. And was that question resolved prior to her going missing?
No.
So nobody really knows if she was or she wasn't?
No idea.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about y'all's living arrangements. Did she have her own room, or what was that situation?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment, but the landlord had her master bedroom locked for when she would come down, her things would be there. So Heather technically resided on the couch, which was a pull-out bed, but she usually just slept on the couch, or she stayed in my bed. We did unlock the bedroom when she moved in, the master bedroom, because she had too much stuff, so we just placed it in the room.
So it was a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you had your own bedroom, but she slept on the couch,
Yes.
and y'all just kind of put her stuff in the other bedroom.
Yes.
Now, tell this jury, were you supposed to be using that other bedroom?
No, we were not supposed to be in there.
Okay, and is that why she wasn't actually like sleeping and putting her items in the drawers?
Yes, that's
Okay.
why.
And in fact, that bedroom had been locked by whoever owned the apartment.
Yes.
Okay, and you were supposed to be just renting
Objection,
one,
Your Honor, to the reading.
Sustained.
were you just renting one room in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, who else lived in that apartment with you and Heather?
No one.
Okay. Now, in December of 2013, was it just you and her living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell me if you were at the apartment the night of December 17th,
I was not.
and why not?
I was in Florida visiting my father and my grandmother who was in the hospital.
Okay. Now, when did you leave town?
The Monday before, so it would have been the 16th, I believe.
Okay. And you left to go back home?
Yes, back to New Jersey.
Okay. Had Heather, prior to that, ever stayed at y'all's apartment by herself for several days?
No.
Okay, so this was the first time since moving there she had been by herself in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if I showed you pictures of y'all's apartment, would you recognize them?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you now what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10 through 31. Do you mind looking and telling us if you can identify these pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell the court.
The first picture is a picture of the outside of the apartment building. The second one is a picture of the door, the outside of the entrance. The next one is a picture of the doorknob. The next one is the entranceway into the apartment. You see a closet on the right. The next one is what is inside of the closet. The following one is walking into the living room. Number 16 is the kitchen. Number 17 is like the refrigerator and the laundry area. Number 18 is the dining room and the living room couch. Number 19 is the couch. 20 is the couch. 21 is the mirror area where we would get ready. 22 is the master bedroom with Heather's belongings in it. 23 is also her belongings in the master bedroom. 24 is the master bedroom. 25 is the master bedroom. 26 is the master bedroom bathroom. 27 is the doorway to the other bathroom. 28 is the bathroom we were allowed to use. 29 is my bedroom. 30 is also my bedroom. And 31 is a picture of the dining room table.
Okay, and that's the apartment you and Heather lived in December 2013?
Yes, ma'am.
And you can recognize it in the items in the picture?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, the state wishes to put into evidence 10 through 31 and publish them to the jury.
No objection.
Without objection, states 10 through 31 are admitted, each being photographed.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time, the state is going to ask Ms. Warrelmann to step down so she can go through the photograph with the jury.
All right, just keep your voice raised, please.
Yes, sir.
You'll face it, you'll position yourself so that you're speaking back towards the court, please. No. You need to move that chart too.
Ms. Warrelmann, if you step over here, you use this
Since
one.
we need to move this chart is blocking.
Tell this jury what we're looking at.
This is the outside of the apartment.
And where's your apartment door? Is it in the
For record,
picture?
Solicitor, you're gonna have to identify what state's exhibit you're doing that will serve no useful purpose to talk about it.
Sure. Ms. Warrelmann, when you're looking at what's been marked previously that you've identified as State's Exhibit number 10, tell this jury what we're looking at.
This is the outside of the apartment building. This window right here would be my bedroom window.
Where's your door?
It's off to the corner.
Okay, so you'd have to turn a right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you, what state's exhibit number 11?
This is the outside of the apartment door.
Okay, and is that the way it looked when you left town?
Yes, ma'am.
And there was no damage to the door?
No, ma'am.
And when you returned to the apartment, was there any damage to the door?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to show you now 12. Again, is that how it appears?
Yes.
And there was no damage to it?
No.
Okay. 13.
This is the entranceway into the apartment. There's a closet on the right.
Okay, and when we're looking straight through, are we looking down kind of into the den area?
Yes, ma'am. That's like the living room area.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you states 14.
Inside that hallway closet.
That's to the right?
Yes.
Okay. And is that how it looked when you left town?
Yes.
Okay, now states 15. What is this area?
To the right is like the dishwasher and the start of the kitchen, and straight is into the living room.
Okay. And that chair, was that always there, like that?
Yes, that's where we did our hair, our makeup. There's a mirror there.
Okay, so everything there, the furniture is still like you left it?
Yes.
Okay, how about 16, state 16?
This is the kitchen.
Okay, and is that pretty much how you left it?
There's some more dishes in the sink, but yeah.
Okay. These bottles here, were they empty or full, or?
They were empty.
Okay. Now I'm showing you 17.
The laundry area.
Okay, and is that how it appeared when y'all were living there?
Yes.
Now 18. What are we looking at?
That's the dining room table and then the living room area.
And where did she sleep?
On that couch where the pillows and the blanket are.
Okay, let me ask you something before we get in that room. What are these items on the table? Do you know what those items are?
Yes.
What are they?
So this silver bag down here is like what she would have brought her clothes to work in. We weren't allowed to leave work in uniform. This is Heather's uniform with like her makeup bag. This is a like tribal crop top shirt and the gray skirt that she was wearing that night.
Okay, I'm going to show this jury now state's evidence 8 again. You familiar with this outfit, Brianna?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the outfit that's on the kitchen table.
Yes.
Okay.
And the sweater that's next to her arm is right here on this chair.
Okay. And this is her little uniform for work.
Yes.
Now, what is this cord?
That's her phone charger.
Okay. And why is it here?
She had to have it constantly next to her, her phone, so even when it was charging, it had to be right by her head. It was like an extended, long charger.
So she would sleep here and have the phone charger right there so she could just plug it in when she got
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
Okay. Now, this phone case here, you familiar with that?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
She was using that one for a brief time, and then right before I left, she switched to like a pink one with rhinestones all over the back of it.
Okay. Now let's move on to 19. Now, all these items you had seen before.
Except for the McDonald's cup, but other than that, yes.
Okay, and you had been gone, what, a day?
A day, 2 days.
Okay. And this blanket, was this the blanket she used to lay on the couch and the pillows?
Yes, ma'am.
So all this is her stuff where she would sleep every night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can we go to states 20? And again, this phone charger look familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
And she had already put, I'm sorry, phone case, had already put a new case
Yes.
on. Okay. 21. What is, whose stuff is this? Tell this jury, who did that belong to?
That belonged to Heather.
And what is it?
Her curling wand, her makeup, stuff she wore on a daily basis.
Okay, is that the stuff she used, kind of your everyday makeup when you get ready?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about these bottles. Were they empty or did they have alcohol in them?
I believe for the most part they were empty.
Okay, and none of this makeup is yours?
No.
And the curling wine's not yours?
No.
Now, was it y'all's normal routine to get ready in front of this, obviously, big mirror?
Yes.
Can we look at states 22? Tell this jury what this stuff is.
So this is Heather's stuff, and this is that master bedroom that we just kind of threw her stuff into.
Okay. And are you familiar with all this stuff?
Yes.
And is this her clothes that she used every day?
Yes.
Okay. And this here, is that her suitcase with her name on it?
Yes.
Okay. And with this stuff there, since she moved in?
Yes.
Okay. And this is pretty much all her belongings?
Yes.
Can we look at 23? Now, it looks like this bed is made up. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Now, these items over here, did they belong to y'all?
I think the stuff that was in the corner was the landlord's stuff.
Okay, like these chairs, the printer,
Yes.
all of that?
Yes.
And originally, that room was locked?
Correct.
Okay. Can we look at 24? And who did that stuff belong to?
The landlord.
Okay. And 25? Who did this belong to?
The landlord.
Okay. And 26?
Your Honor, I'm going to object just on relevance.
But you didn't object to the condition, she's just publishing something you agreed to.
Well, I agreed to be submitted evidence, but in terms of the continued questioning, I don't see where it's
You
relevant.
asked the question. The pictures speak for themselves, but she didn't ask the
Number 26, is this bathroom in y'all's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Was this the bathroom y'all normally use?
No, this is the master bathroom that was attached to the master bedroom.
Okay. And did these items belong to you and Heather?
No.
Okay. Can we look at 27? Now, what is this door? Do you recognize it?
Yes, so this is the door into the bathroom that we were allowed to use, and to the right was like the little closet for towels and things like that.
Okay. And how about 28? Is this the bathroom y'all would use?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, these towels on the ground, were they there when you left?
No.
And whose brush and these items, who do they belong to?
They look like they were Heather's.
Okay, so her stuff was still in the apartment at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's look at 29. Whose room is this?
That's my room.
Okay, and is that how you left it?
Yes.
Okay, and can we look at state's evidence number 30? And are those your items in the room?
Yes.
Okay, and can we look at 31? Now, these items here, which is in State's Exhibit 31, who did this little bag belong to?
Heather.
And why is it on the kitchen table?
It most likely came out of her work bag that was on the chair.
Right here?
Yes, ma'am.
And whose shoes are these on the kitchen table?
Heather's.
And how about these bags here?
The makeup bag and the purse are also Heather's.
Okay. Now, tell this jury, when did you get back to that apartment?
It was the beginning of January.
Okay? And when you got back to the apartment, were her items still in the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at that time, did you pack up her items for her family?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any items missing when you packed her stuff up?
Yes.
Tell this jury the items that were missing.
She had a go-to like comfy outfit. Would have been like black leggings or yoga pants, black Vans, a black leather jacket that had like gray, like cotton sleeves, and then she had these ugly cut-off mittens with your fingertips would show. They were red.
And that was her go-to kind of fall winter outfit.
Yes, like her comfy, like let me throw on clothes.
Okay. And those were the only items that were not in the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Just so I know and this jury knows, like I have clothes I throw on just to hang around the house. Were these clothes she would throw on to hang around the house, or were these clothes she would go out in to the grocery store or to run an errand or leave the house?
She went, it was hit or miss. Not a lot of times go out in it, but sometimes. It was
Okay.
like a quick outing.
Okay. So she would wear it outside the house?
Yes.
Okay, so it won't like pajamas?
No.
Okay. Now, were there any other items missing?
No.
So, I mean, if you don't mind, have a seat. I got a few more questions. Ms. Warrelmann, this is already, this is stage evidence number 5. I'm going to ask you a little bit about when was the last time you spoke with Heather Ellis?
1:44 in the morning on December 18, 2013.
Do you remember, or can you identify the phone number you had at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you see that phone number on these phone records?
You've done that, Ted?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. Second from the top.
Okay. And if you don't mind, Ms. Miller's going to write it down. What is the phone number you have December of 2013?
609-412-3938.
Now, if you don't mind, Mr. Schiraldi has put his name by his number. Do you mind writing your name by your number? And you can put it down flat if you need to. You mind putting it just for Brianna? There you go. Thank you. So you talked with her at 1:44 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to ask you something. Looking at these phone records, do you recognize this number, 444-2462?
No.
Now, she called you that morning, early morning, 1:44 a.m. Where were you at that time?
I was in Florida,
Okay, and why were you in Florida?
visiting my dad and my grandmother.
Okay, to your knowledge, was anybody in the apartment other than Heather?
No.
Objection or speculation.
Sustained, so too.
Ask that her response be stricken.
Well, jury disregard the response.
Ms. Warrelmann, how did she sound on the phone?
She was very upset.
Okay, and did you hear anybody in the background?
No, I did not.
And when you say very upset, was she crying?
She was hysterically crying.
And was this a very long conversation that you had with her?
No, it was not.
Okay. And at the time, to your knowledge, you know where she was?
I was told she was at home.
Now, you can't tell me what she said, but what did you say to her in response to what she told you?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the basis?
I think the question is going to call for that hearsay that Ms. Lax is trying to get around.
Tell what she reacted to, but what we will let her, it's not, as long as it doesn't deal with any response to what Heather Ellis said. She can tell what she said.
Ms. Warrelmann, if you don't mind, tell this jury what you told Heather Elvis that night, the last thing you told her.
The last thing I said to her was to not meet Sidney go to sleep, and we would talk about it in the morning.
And that's the last time you ever talked to her?
Yes, ma'am.
How did Heather feel about Sidney?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. In the time you lived with her, and the time you worked with her, did she ever look afraid of Sidney Moore?
No, ma'am.
Did she, during this time frame, you worked with her every day, you were seeing her every day, living with her, did she ever appear afraid of his wife, Tammy Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when y'all worked at Tilted Kill, did you ever talk to Sidney Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did he ever talk about Heather to you?
Briefly,
Okay, and what did he say?
I told him not to hurt her one day in the kitchen.
What did he say?
I'm not, and then walked away.
Did you ever see his wife?
No, ma'am.
During that time, did all the employees kind of park in the same parking area?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And do you know what color truck he had?
White.
Had you ever seen him in a black truck?
No, ma'am.
Now, Heather's vehicle, what kind of car did she drive?
She drove a, I think it was a Dodge Intrepid.
Okay. And tell this jury, is that the same vehicle she had from when she was dating him and when she went missing?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so she never changed vehicles during that time?
No.
Did she ever change jobs during that time?
No, she did not.
How did she keep her car?
A mess?
Could you even ride in it?
No, I couldn't. Not unless I wanted to sit on a pile of stuff.
And at the time, what kind of car did you drive?
At the time, I drove a Nissan 350Z.
And if you don't mind, tell the jury what it looked like.
It had blacked out headlights and blacked out taillights and a black roof. It was a silver car.
So it was something you wouldn't miss.
Correct. It was very loud, too.
It was very distinguishable.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so if you go out into a parking lot, you'd say, that one right there, that's Breeze.
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, I like that. But how about Heather Elvis? Was hers in any way distinguishable?
No.
Okay, so she just kind of had a regular four-door sedan.
Yes.
Nothing special about it, didn't have any real bells and whistles.
No.
Okay. Now, when y'all were living together, you stated earlier that she had a phone charger right there by her head. Did you ever know her to go anywhere without that phone?
No, it was glued to her hip.
Okay. And was she one of those people that always kept it charged up?
Yes.
Now, do you know Dennis Hart Sr.?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did him and Heather have any kind of sexual relationship?
No.
And do you know Dennis Hart Jr.?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not he was even living in Horry County in December of 2013?
No, he lived in Washington.
Okay, so he didn't even live in the county.
No.
You were living with her from the end of November to December. Was she dating anybody during that time frame?
No.
And did she date anybody during the time frame she was with Sidney Moore?
No.
When y'all were living together, did y'all ever ride by the defendant's house?
No,
Okay. Did y'all ever hang out at a local bar called Longview?
no,
Did y'all ever hang out at Peachtree Landing?
no,
Did you know where Sidney Moore lived?
no.
Do you know Heather's parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you meet them in the course of y'all living together?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about her relationship with her parents.
Well, we went to her parents' house the weekend beforehand because I wanted to learn how to play guitar. So we went there and everything was fine. When we went there, we sat in the living room, we watched videos, we talked about Morgan was just in a play, I think it was, that night. Everything was fine. I had heard from Heather that, you know, she didn't always make decisions that her parents agreed with prior to that.
Let me ask you something. Heather have a tattoo?
She had a few.
Okay. And did she like to go out and have a good time?
Yes, she did.
And she was kind of free-spirited.
Very free-spirited.
Was she 21 yet?
No, she was not.
Okay. So there was kind of that tug that a lot of teenagers have with their parents.
Yes,
And that's kind of what she had going on with her parents.
yes,
She's trying to break away.
yes.
Was that her dad's car she was driving? That Dodge Intrepid?
I believe so.
Okay. So she was kind of at that weird place, wanting to be independent, but couldn't quite financially get to that place.
Correct.
We've all been there. During this time, when y'all became friends, from June, July, August, that time frame, did you know her at that time to be afraid of anyone?
No,
Okay. Did you know her to be afraid of anyone during the entire time you knew her, other than Tammy Moore?
no,
Are you afraid of Tammy Moore?
yes.
Bree, I don't have any more questions for you at this time. Please answer any questions that have been.
You will be needing that.
No, you're not.
Yeah, we can move that back.
I was just trying not to get in the way while we get this.
That's fine. Take your time. Go ahead.
Reed, is it Warrelmann? Am I saying your name?
That's fine.
Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask you a few questions. You said she moved in with you in 1st of December of 2013?
She moved in with me right around Thanksgiving.
Thanks, yeah. Okay. Where had she been residing prior to the time she moved in with you?
A guy that she worked with at House of Blues in North Myrtle Beach,
And what was his name?
Jeremy.
Was it Jeremy Fleming?
I have no idea his last name.
You don't know his last name, but she was living with this individual?
Yes, and like I believe 2 or 3 girls that also worked at House of Blues.
Okay. To your knowledge, was there ever any prior romantic relationship between her and Jeremy Fleming?
I don't know if that was his last name. There was more than one Jeremy that she had been with.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. You know there were 2 Jeremys. You don't know, but you don't know the last names.
Correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you have a general timeline as to when she would have been seeing or involved with either one of the Jeremys?
I know that there was one that they didn't really get along, and that was before her and I ever became friends. And the Jeremy she lived with, they were not romantic when she lived with him. He had like a girlfriend or a girlfriend that he wanted to be with living there at the same time.
Well, I think, wasn't she living with him, and the reason for her decision to
leave the residence as a result of one of the other women that was living in the apartment?
She didn't feel like it was best to be there when they had a history and he was trying to get back together with his girlfriend.
Okay, so they had this relationship, they were still living together, and he is now engaging in a relationship with one of the other women that's living there?
She wasn't in a relationship with him when she lived there. They were just friends.
How long, what was the ending point of her relationship with the Jeremy that she was living with?
I know that was before her and I ever even became friends.
But the residence that she's at immediately prior to moving in with you is the residence with Jeremy?
Correct.
All right. Now, was there any discussion about how long she might stay there? Obviously, she's living kind of on the couch. Did she have plans to move anywhere else?
When she lived with me,
Correct.
We were talking about getting a bigger apartment together.
Okay. Now, obviously you work together, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you saw each other frequently?
Yes.
All right. You obviously saw each other at home, correct?
Yes.
All right. There was discussion a moment ago about, well, let me withdraw that question. Did she ever indicate anything to you that she said that she was pregnant?
She had thought she was pregnant. I want to say it got brought up at work in October sometime.
In October, okay. And she's residing with you up until mid-December, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, you filled out written statements to police.
Yes, I did.
And if I'm not mistaken, you filled out a written statement in around February of 2014,
I
correct?
believe it was January when I first got back to the state.
Okay. But your written statement, was it somewhere in February? Does that sound correct?
I thought it was January when I first came back, but it could have been February.
All right. And in that statement, you told everything that you knew about Heather in recent months, correct?
Yes.
All right. And it was a full and complete statement?
Yes.
Okay. Now, whenever you gave that statement, was there ever any indication that Miss Elvis had any follow-up OBGYN appointments?
No.
Any second or subsequent pregnancy tests that were taken by her, at least to your knowledge?
Other than the first one at Tilted Kill, not to my knowledge, no.
And that was in the October timeframe that raised the issues at work?
I believe it was October.
Okay.
I believe it was October.
So in October, we have this inconclusive test, correct?
Yes.
All right. So we're October, now into middle of December, and to the best of your knowledge, as someone that works with her and lives with her, you never observed any prenatal vitamins, correct?
No, I did not.
No subsequent tests, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. To your knowledge, you also never made any arrangements regarding maternity leave at Tilted Kill, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Given that, wouldn't it be safe to say that at this point, if we were to say she was pregnant, it would be pure speculation? Wouldn't you agree with that?
I have no way to know if she was or she wasn't.
Okay. Well, I think that kind of answers my question. Let me ask you this. You said that she'd had problems at home. How long had she lived at the residence immediately preceding the one she shared with Jeremy?
You're saying at home?
Well, what I'm looking for is, do you know where she resided prior to the residence that she shared with Jeremy?
I believe at home.
Okay, she lived at home. Had she lived in a car previously to that?
I think there were a couple of days, stints, things like that. She would get in little arguments, disagreements.
And she had lived with Miss Cook, I believe, at some point too. You aware of that?
I believe in the spring, beginning of the summer.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you know of a man named Jerry Stevens?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the last name, but I do know of a Jerry.
Jerry. And is he another employee at the House of Blues?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Your knowledge, did Heather have any romantic relationship at any point during 2013 with Jerry Stevens?
Not necessarily romantic. I would say physical, and that would be in December.
There was a sexual relationship
Yes.
between Jerry Stevens and Miss Elvis?
I don't know if that was his last name, but
Okay.
Jerry.
A Jerry that also worked at House of Blues.
Yes.
That's the person you're referencing?
Yes.
And they had a sexual relationship in December?
December.
December, okay. Now, I was a little confused from your statement. By the time you got back in January of 2014, had anybody else gotten inside of your apartment other than the police, at least to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, just the police.
Okay. Did any of the family members or anybody else come through and get personal items or anything of that nature?
No, we had talked about it, but we decided just to wait until I got back.
So nobody else has been in? All right. Give me just a moment.
Sir?
Just a few more questions briefly. We're going to hear a lot about phone calls and text messages, and I understand she did both of those a lot.
Yes, she did.
Okay. Now, did she also communicate via social media platforms?
Yes,
Okay, so she would post or display on Facebook, correct?
yes,
She would comment on other people's Facebook pages to communicate with them, correct?
yes,
Okay. Did she utilize like a Facebook Messenger app or different messaging apps associated with?
I believe she had the Facebook Messenger app.
Okay. Did she utilize Instagram?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Did she communicate with people directly via Instagram?
I don't know if direct messaging on Instagram was a thing then, but she would comment on other people's pictures.
So she would certainly utilize that platform as a means in which to communicate with third parties, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about Snapchat? Did she have a Snapchat app?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Now, in 2013, was that a relatively new app?
Yes, it was.
And can you give us just the basic guidelines for anybody that may not be familiar with that application? What is unique about it?
You can send a picture and it disappears.
Okay. And not just pictures, it can do messages as well, correct?
Yes, I don't know if it did then, because that was a fairly newer feature.
But you know now that's a feature if it wasn't before. So.
Yes,
Correct. All right. And you know she had the app?
yes,
Okay. Did she utilize that particular app?
yes, she did.
Okay. Would you be accurate to say that she used it frequently?
Yes, she did.
All right. So we have her frequently texting, correct?
Yes,
Safe to say she frequently utilized Facebook for different forms of communication, correct?
yes,
As well as Instagram.
yes,
All right. And she's also utilizing the Snapchat app for various forms of communication.
yes,
The text and calls is really only one of about 4 or 5 methodologies in which she used to communicate with different people at different points in time. Is that-
correct. Her main was probably texting.
Okay, all right. Your Honor, no further questions for this witness.
Right, redirect.
Just a couple, Judge.
Sure.
Bree, the defense attorney asked you about pregnancy tests. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you leave a pregnancy test in the trash can when you left town?
no,
Okay. And did you clean the trash cans out before you left town?
yes, I did.
Okay. So when you left, the trash cans were clean?
Yes,
Okay. And you hadn't left no pregnancy test in the trash can?
no,
Okay. Now, he asked you also about Jeremy and Jerry, and was there anybody else?
I think just that, the 2 Jeremys and Jerry.
Okay, Jeremy and Jerry. Okay. I think I may be confused. When you talked to her at 1:44 a.m., the morning of 12/18, just probably a couple hours before she goes missing, do you remember that conversation?
Yes, I do.
And you remember what you told her?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you tell her, don't go meet Jeremy?
No, I did not.
Okay, did you tell her, don't go meet Jared?
No, I did not.
Did you tell her not to go meet this defendant?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
No further questions.
Recross.
No.
You may come down, thank you. You wish the witness to be excused?
Please, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Be free to leave too, thank you, ma'am. Okay? Or next witness.
Of course, indulgence, Your Honor.